The Tale of Orange Pig and Muskrat. Once upon a time there was a large and beautiful forest, where many animals lived. There was a lot of food in the forest, such as apples, acorns, and raspberries. So you would think that all the animals would be very happy? But unfortunately this was not the case. Many animals and their children were hungry. Some animals had to look for food in garbage bins. And some animals didn't even have a house to live in. While the pigs and elephants had more food than they could ever eat. How was this possible? All the animals in the forest were forced to give all the food they found to the pigs and elephants. And they were only allowed to keep a very small amount for themselves. And if an animal protested, he was no longer allowed to look for food in the forest at all. The donkeys in particular did not think this was fair at all. But the pigs and the elephants shrugged their shoulders and said that it had always been so. So every year the pigs and the elephants grew richer and richer. And the other animals became poorer and poorer. So you would think that all the pigs and elephants were very happy. They had more than enough to eat. And they didn't have to work so hard as the other animals. But Orange Pig was unhappy and angry, and also the biggest bully in the forest. He especially enjoyed bullying small and defenseless animals. Let's go back in time to try to understand Orange Pig. Orange Pig was a very different piglet than his brothers and sisters. The only animal Orange Piglet loved was himself. And he loved himself very much. The father of Orange Piglet was very rich and had chests full of food. That was because he was very good at finding truffles, a very expensive mushroom. One day father asked all the piglets to come to him. And told them that Orange Piglet would become his successor. But Orange Piglet couldn't smell very well and wasn't all that smart. He couldn't find any truffles. In fact, he couldn't find any food. Or do anything well at all. So he became very frustrated and angry. And he was also very afraid that the other animals would realize that he was a failure. So he decided that from now on he would pretend that he was very successful. Orange Pig bought big chests, so that everyone would think that he was very rich. While in reality those chests were completely empty. But he saw that many animals believed that the chests were full. That made him very happy, and soon he started lying about everything. He told everyone that he was very good at everything you could think of. And especially the not-so-smart animals started to believe all those lies. But of course sometimes an animal who would speak out that he was lying. That's why Orange Pig hired a gang of mean-ass vultures, who threatened and beat anyone who dared to say that Orange Pig was lying. Then one day a new animal came into the forest. It was Muskrat, riding up with the largest chest of food ever seen. And all the animals were very impressed by that large chest. Who was this Muskrat? Well, he was actually a lot like Orange Pig. He also came from a very rich family, but from a forest far away. And just like Orange Pig, he only loved himself very much. But he was smarter than Orange Pig and much better at lying and cheating. When another animals had found a new delicious kind of food. He even paid that animal to say that Muskrat had discovered this delicious food. And the other animal was never allowed to tell anyone that this was not true. He even paid somebody else to play video games, pretending that he was Muskrat. So that Muskrat could brag that he was the best in the world at video games. So you understand that Orange Pig and Muskrat liked each other. And it didn't take long before Orange Pig and Muskrat came up with a diabolical plan. The current president of the forest had grown old and tired. So a new one had to be elected by all the animals. Orange Pig and Muskrat's diabolical plan was to make Orange Pig the new president. In that way they could become incredibly richer than they already were. And they could bully any animal they wanted, without anyone being able to do anything about it. Since Orange Pig could lie very well, he would fool everyone that other animals were to blame for the problems in the forest. And Muskrat would seduce everyone with his huge chest of food. And so Orange Pig started spreading his vile fabrications, blaming certain animals for all the problems in the forest, while these animals had never done anything wrong. He started with the unicorns, which he hated the most, because they were proudly themselves, while he had to pretend to be someone else. Of course he also railed against the donkeys, because they knew he was a fraud. But above all, he liked to blame the coyotes, because they were easy prey. Most of them came from another forest, and had no one to defend them. At the same time, Muskrat was supporting Orange Pig's campaign, and convinced animals by giving them a little food from the huge supply he had. And more animals began to believe and cheer for them. In particular, the less smart animals were enthusiastic about them. But even animals that were very poor because of the pigs and elephants believed them. And so Orange Pig won the elections and became president of the forest. And the pigs and elephants celebrated because they were going to become even much richer. And so the reign of Orange Pig and Muskrat began. As expected, they started making all the poor animals even poorer. So the poor animals could hardly get any food anymore. They even closed the hospital for the poor animals. And the unicorns were threatened and called very rude names. Many coyotes were captured and banished from the forest. And the pigs and elephants? They became disgustingly rich. But Muskrat was the one that stole by far most of all the food. Another disaster was that Pig fired all the animals with important jobs, and gave their jobs to his rich friends the pigs and elephants, while these didn't know how to do that work at all, and thus made a complete mess of it. To everyone's surprise, Orange Pig started fighting with animals from other forests and scolding them, while those animals had always been their very best friends. Orange Pig only liked a very mean and cruel bear from another forest. This bear was an even a bigger and scarier bully that even killed animals he didn't like. And this bear wanted to have a beautiful forest that actually belonged to other animals. So Pig helped the bully bear to take away that beautiful forest from the animals who lived there. The pigs realized to their horror, just as the elephants, that they had created a monster. It soon became clear that the smarter Muskrat was actually the real boss of the forest. When the police eagles discovered that Muskrat had indeed stolen a lot of food, he immediately fired them. But a lot of people thought Muskrat was a real creep. No one had ever voted for him. And he started spouting more and more nonsense. Only the elephants could prevent this disaster. But despite being big, they were also very cowardly, and very afraid of Orange Pig. But eventually all the animals became unhappy. Even the pigs and the elephants, who always had the most food of all the animals, were now always in fear of being shot by one of the animals whose lives they had ruined, and doomed to always live behind fences and 24/7 security, with no guarantees. And so the forest, which was once very beautiful, turned into a depressing, bleak mess. In just a few years. But not all the animals gave up.